Eve, he had toured the presidential library of President Theodore Roosevelt. So we're going to get started with the program. It is quite an interesting day to be back. I'm back from vacation. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court. We're going to talk about their ruling. Rob and I both expected that this would happen, that they would, in fact, not overturn the status quo of birthright citizenship. But what does this mean? What does this formal declaration mean? It's the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in just a matter of days. And now we can kind of look back and we can look at where we've been and where we are and where we're going. Where does America go from here when all the third world has to do to get here to take away your birthright is to claim their birthright? Think about this. What are your children's, if you're an American, what are your children's birthright? And the fact that a foreigner can take it, that's the way I look at it. And if you have enough of these, well, you know, what have we been talking about for years? Anchor babies, this phrase anchor baby, then they're going to vote, and they're going to vote to take away your country. So what John Roberts, what Amy Coney Barrett did was essentially say that according to 21st century, I don't know what even to call it, 24th century norms, 24th century evolved sensibilities, you and I are not allowed to have a country anymore. Let's talk about it. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
The Paul Harrell program.
All right, folks, welcome to the show. It's good to be back, broadcasting from the great state of Arkansas here on LFA TV, Rumble, as well as the Paul Harrell program YouTube. Rob Spencer's with me. Rob, how you doing, sir?
Paul, it is an honor to be with you. Gosh, I've said this multiple times before, but when there's just massive breaking news, you're just sitting there looking at it like, I wish we were on the radio. Like, I wish we were broadcasting right now, because I just had a lot of things to say. And, we saw so many reactions here. Paul, you are getting lots of happy birthday messages in our chat, just so you know.
Oh,
how did they know it was your birthday?
I don't know. Did I just say it was my
Maybe
birthday?
You did. Maybe
I don't
you
even
did.
remember what I said.
I was texting someone, so I may. But anyway,
a couple of days ago. But
yeah.
Yes, I'm now 42. I'm a changed man from when I left to now. Here I
am. You had a great birthday. Did a lot of fishing.
That
day. So anyway, super glad to be back in studio to talk about all of these things, and then of course something we didn't plan on talking about this, but we have a huge World Cup match tonight, and whether you're a soccer fan or not, I think rooting for United States, especially with the World Cup being here in the U.S., is pretty awesome. So they play at 7 o'clock Central tonight.
Who are we playing?
Bosnia, I think.
No, he said, I don't know. Turkistan.
Some hellhole. So, not to be disrespectful.
I don't know. Is it Bosnia? I don't know. I don't know anything about Bosnia. Didn't we have troops there when I was growing up? Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, is it? Does anybody know in the chat? Just tell us who we're playing
Off the top of my head, I just can't be arrogant enough to say, oh, yeah, Bosnia, that's a great country. They may be a very nice country to be at this point, but I have no idea.
No, I don't know either. But regardless.
But is it true, Rob, that the finals may be the UK versus America? Is that still a possibility?
Well, I think it's a long shot to think that the United States make it to the finals. They're what you would call an underdog at this point. Not really expected to make it. But anyway.
Okay. Well, I mean, that was true of the American Revolution. I mean, people didn't assume that America was going to win that conflict without a little help from the French. So, anyway.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Robin Williams talks about that. It's just the best bit, when, God bless, man, the world lost a true one there. But when he talks about France, he's like, they just hate us. He's like, the filthy Americans. I can't stand them. They're so stupid. I don't know that that's French or
that's
Spanish.
Good. That's good.
Was it good?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, then they get invaded. We love America. Come save us. Come save us. And then the threat goes away. We come save them. Threat goes away. These stupid Americans. We hate them.
And the whole stupid
it's so true.
thing, that's actually really been totally reversed. I don't know if it's specifically French people, but so many of these people still are coming over here and saying, can't believe that I've been lied to my whole life.
Yeah.
America is really great. And then I saw somebody say, I mean, if you watch the news, America is a terrible place. But if you actually take a road trip and meet the people, it's not at all this. Well, what Alex Stein called trauma-based mind control is much of what the news is geared towards.
I believe that it was. I think it's probably been 10 years or so at this point. But Rob Schneider, the you
Comedian.
can do it,
Yeah.
From all the Adam Sandler movies and of course Saturday Night Live. Love him. He's a conservative comedian because he brings his conservatism into his comedy acts these days. But anyway, he had a tweet. It was about 10 years ago, and it just said, I guarantee you that if you will just walk outside and talk to your neighbor, you'll find that the world is much more harmonious than the news is telling us.
Oh, 100%. I agree. And, I realize that I'm about to get into how bad the news is because I do think it's bad. Don't get me wrong. It is pretty bad, and there's a lot of different takes about this Supreme Court decision on birthright citizenship. Obviously, those on the left, they love it. And then there's some on the right who are saying, hey, you guys are too doom and gloom about, this decision because it's just the status quo, it's just going to continue. And then there's other guys that are like, no, actually, this is a huge deal that this is now a formal declaration that you essentially can't have a country in terms of, what it means to be an American. Mm-hmm. And I actually think, excluding the leftist take, that all opinions on the spectrum just need to be welcomed. I mean, if you're upset about this decision, be as vocal, pronounce as many eulogies as you want to pronounce. And if you also think, hey, there's a path forward, and by the way, there is a path forward. I don't know what that's going to be. All right,
Mm-hmm.
The path forward may very well not be a country that is the makeup of the United States the way it is right now. In 50 years, I don't know.
Yeah.
I actually do believe this is a symptom of the death spiral. I think the Supreme Court doing this is kind of the boomer generation's middle finger to the country, like one last, like a cherry on top, middle finger to the country. And I know Amy Coney Barrett, I think she's technically Gen X, but especially just look at the women on the court, plus her, that are giving us this, that are essentially, school marming us and saying, nope, if you get across that border, and have a baby, you are now an American citizen. You are now one of us, which is just preposterous. It is civilizational suicide. So I do think that this is a Rubicon moment. How we react to it, I mean, there's a lot of things the administration could still do to kind of poke the bear even more. Mm-hmm. And I think at this point, people are invoking Andrew Jackson. The president could ramp up deportations, could do a lot more in reaction to this, in response to this. I don't know if that's going to happen, though. Regardless of what President Trump does, and I know I'm on a long tangent, I do think we are now on a path. And the path is either, and you combine this with the elections. Hey, the left can just count votes for forever. Like that was the other ruling. So our borders don't matter. National sovereignty doesn't matter. If you get in this country, you have a baby, you're a citizen. And elections, you can just count until a blue state says we're done counting to get the desired result. That we are now on a path of confrontation.
I wholeheartedly believe that and maybe I'm in my bubble, maybe I'm in my Bible Belt conservative Christian state bubble, but I don't think so because I see reactions like can the leftist lunatics do a boycott that actually is meaningful? I've not noticed one. Now, they were getting people canceled during the Me Too movement and all of that stuff, but that's just that's a whole other beast. Because that Me Too movement stuff, there were a lot of conservative women. It was like, yeah, me too. Like I was, and a lot of good things came out of that. But then there was also a lot of, well, he was this or that. Well, okay, but did he sexually assault you? I mean, he was mean to you. That's not what this movement's supposed to be about. This is about people, whatever. I don't want to go off on this.
Weinstein.
Yeah. So we saw all of this. There was a lot of good things that came out of that. But when conservatives do a boycott of something, i.e. Target, Bud Light, what was Target's Pride Month this year?
Yeah, or the year before that, quite frankly.
It's the most patriotic displays that you can see. Instead of having this pride, and these babies,
Tucket swimsuits.
The tucket swimsuits. Thank you. The most disgusting stuff that you can think of there. Embracing that mental illness. But you're saying that a conservative, I say that a conservative who is trying to send a message, we can do it with our money because we actually have money because we work, for the most part. And we're working people. We're going to be cognizant of how we spend our money with our budget. Liberals just rant and rave online. That's a long-winded way of saying I do not believe that there are as many liberals in this country as are purported through voting. I do not think that that is the case whatsoever. I believe there are far, far more independents who are really conservatives, but they just don't want to be called a Republican, and actual conservatives / Republicans, all of our boxes over here. There are more of those than there are liberals on the left. Now, I'm not trying to say that it's like 75-25, but I don't think we're 50-50. I don't think we're any close to 50-50. And so that's why this Save America Act and voting day should have been voting day, election day, right? All of that stuff was going to go a long way in preventing this continued rise of the Democrats, and now even worse, the communist socialists here. It's interchangeable. They're two separate ideologies, but they're interchangeable at this point. 15 candidates have won so far? They're sweeping the Democratic Party. They're booing Hakeem Jeffries. He's about to become Speaker of the House after November if the Republicans can't turn things around. Again, now I'm on the long tangent here. But these were opportunities along with this birthright citizenship. This was ways to continue to right the ship because, folks, Donald Trump's not going to be president. For only a couple more years here. And if a Democrat gets in office, that border is right back opened.
Yep.
And all we've got are 9-month pregnant women running across the border, holding it in, crossing their legs as they try to cross the border here so that they can birth that child on American soil. It's going to continue to happen. And some people say, well, what's the big deal? Who cares with that? Because now they're an American citizen. They're entitled to benefits as an American citizen. They can then join the welfare state, which is just wrought with fraud left and right. It presents tons of issues. And we're going to talk about this. When you're a constitutional conservative, you want to go, what was the original intent? What was the original intent of the Constitution and these amendments? And we know that the author of this amendment giving birthright citizenship was consciously excluding people, anchor babies, people that are just running across the border, flying in. Of course, airplanes didn't exist at that time, but people coming into this country, sailing in, giving birth, and now that it was specifically so we could not deny citizenship to American slaves.
You're exactly right, and I think again, to my point about the path that we're on. I mean, this sets us up for class warfare, the likes of which we've never seen. I mean, it's already happening, and maybe instead of class warfare, what we should say is just, ethnic conflict, I guess you could say. I mean, you're going to have a growing resentment, especially among Gen Alpha. I mean, I'm telling you, the Generation Alpha that's coming up, they are so done with this nonsense, and I actually think that, in 20, 30 years, I won't be surprised when that generation just says, okay, I want a dictator and I don't care what side. I just want somebody to make it stop, make the madness stop. I think a Supreme Court decision like this, historically, you're going to look back and say, yeah, they had an opportunity to stop it, but they made this ridiculous. They just, you look at Amy Coney Barrett, how she, shot President Trump that side eye. I think this is totally personal. I think there's probably corruption involved as well. Who knows exactly? I mean, here's President Trump. Let's throw this up here. One second. Forgive me. I always forget to check this. Let me make sure that I put Rob in the camera here. There he is. So President Trump congratulating President Xi of China on their massive birthright citizenship win, because that's exactly what this is. It is a massive win for China, and they've been doing this. I mean, there are stories of this happening. You come over here, you do the birther tourism thing, you have your baby, you take it back, raise it in China, but now you have a Manchurian candidate that can run for president in 35 years.
Yeah.
I mean, this is insane. So you can integrate them. Almost like whatever went down with Barack Obama was just foreshadowing, what could also happen.
Well, look at all they're already even in these predominant Muslim countries coming in, and they're taking over American cities at this point. We've seen it. Dearborn, Michigan's not the only place, but they're taking over these American cities. Well, they're having children here too, and these children are citizens if their parents are not. And they're taking over. They're becoming, I feel like the South Park. They took our jobs, but they're coming over and taking over our cities, which is worse.
Yeah, and so Belfast comes to mind. The unrest that you're seeing in Belfast. That because of Amy Coney Barrett, because of John Roberts, we are now on the same path that that Britain is already on.
Yeah.
They're further down the road than us. This is what we have to expect. And and I'm disgusted by it. I mean, it's crazy to think that, and I keep getting hung up on this word, birthright. So you're an immigrant from the third world country, you get over here, you have a baby, and now that baby's birthright is our birthright. You're now the same as us.
Yeah.
When our forefathers were here, and we've been here for generations, and now you get our birthright.
Yeah, Kate.
It's so offensive to me.
It is, and Justice Thomas talked about that in his dissent and how it devalues American citizenship. And Kayleigh McEnany, when who is on Fox News now, she spoke perfectly about it. From my perspective, she was talking about the decision and how wrong it was. She completely I sent you that clip of her. I don't know if
was it a TikTok or
I think it was just like a clip of the show, and the reason is if I send it to you, I'd rather you play it. No, I sent it to us in our group text with Eric and them.
Well, a lot of times
but it still show up there. Sorry about the dead air, but Kayleigh spoke it so perfectly that it's hard for me to not want to let her say it. But anyway, she was talking about the devaluing of American citizenship, and the point that she was making was a Chinese national comes in and gives birth to this child, and what does it say in the 14th Amendment? And subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Okay? Because if they come here and they're born in America, they're also a Chinese citizen as well. Chinese national, right? So, are they subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, or are they only subject to the Chinese? Oh, here it is.
Incorrectly describes the 14th Amendment. I agree with the three dissenters, and here is why. When you look at the text of the 14th Amendment, which I have right here in my hand, it says that in order to be a citizen, you have to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Right. If you are a woman from China who comes over, you are subject to the jurisdiction of China. That's pretty clearly written in the text of the 14th Amendment. I'm a textualist, though. You go on and it says that you are subject to the state wherein you reside. If you are a woman from China who comes over to give birth in this country, you are not residing in a state, you are a visitor. It is very clear, the text on the page, which is why Thomas got this right. It's why Alito got this right. It's why Gorsuch got this right.
That's why they were in the minority.
This is a hugely important decision because it only takes a few brain cells to answer this question. Do you think the founders, or the framers, I should say, of the 14th Amendment intended for 4.13 billion women in the world to have the right to come over here, give birth, and become a citizen? Did they envision 4.13 billion new citizens potentially in a theoretical world? No, but that is essentially what the majority is saying today. It is totally ludicrous. That would include children from hostile nations. Do you think the framers of the 14th Amendment?
It's just utterly preposterous.
Yeah.
It's utterly preposterous.
So spot on.
It doesn't make any sense. Obviously, we've we've compared, what the founders' version of this country is to things, other things that are just totally outside of where we're at today.
So let me ask you this, Paul. If the child comes over here, or a lady brings herself over here in her last months, right before she gives birth to a child. Unpause that. It's a very unflattering. Kaylee McEnany's a very beautiful woman, and
that's better.
It's a little. I don't know.
We'll just go.
It's so unflattering.
All right,
for
you've
her.
got the screen.
Okay, but anyway, but the point that I'm thinking, all right, so they come over here, they give birth to this child, and this child goes back. This is what this birther tourism is, and this child goes back and is raised in China. Maybe they come to the United States, or maybe they're still in China and they're committing some sort of fraud on an American citizen. It happens all the time. Chinese companies are completely ripping off American companies, which is why Mr. Wonderful, who was on Shark Tank, says you should never have your stuff built in China, because once you get up to a certain level, they're going to steal it and you cannot sue in Chinese courts. So if a person is over here committing fraud, but they are a United States citizen because they were born in Atlanta, Georgia, or whatever, can the United States prosecute them if they are living and they are also a Chinese national?
Non-extradition.
Of freaking course not. We know that's not the case. So that person is not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. That's what Kaylee McEnany is saying. If a person comes in from China, gives birth, that child born is not subject to our jurisdiction if China doesn't want it. If they're living here, maybe that's a different story. But if they're living in China as an American citizen, we got nothing we can do to them.
Yeah.
And it's so asinine to me that 6 legal minds, well, a couple of them here, you're gonna just say this with quotes here. We all know who we're talking about. These liberal justices. Sorry, I got so fired up I'm getting mad. But anyway, I really value Amy Coney Barrett's opinion on a lot of things. She was so impressive during her confirmation hearing, how she just argued all of these cases without a single note. She didn't have to. She just knew. She was so well prepared. But the bottom line is she's let us down on multiple things.
Yeah, she
here.
has. She's been a terrible pick on. I mean, she's great for overturning Roe versus Wade, but I mean, a lot of things she's been a huge disappointment. We've known
for years that John Roberts is a wild card, because we had a 5-4 court for a long time, and then for a while, and then Ruth Bader Ginsburg passes.
And we're all told, oh, we've got a 6-3 court now. No, we don't.
No, we don't.
Obviously, we don't.
It's supposed to be like a 5-4 with John Roberts as is this wild card here, but realistically it should be 6-3.
I mean, this is a basic decision, but it goes against that generation and their whole idea of the world. This little 20th century blip of how we think about nations, how we think about how other countries interact, the whole point of nation state. We have redefined what is socially acceptable in terms of thought. And the court is simply regurgitating all of that nonsense out back on the American people, just as a significant portion of the American people are waking up and saying, wait a second, we're actually having to live the results of open borders. We're having to live the results of saying that the third world immigrant is just like some Ellis Island immigrant when they're not even close to being the same.
But they try to say they are.
We've had to live in this world where they say, oh, well, you can come here, but we want you to assimilate. As long as you assimilate, that's the good. And we hold that up as like when assimilation is the exception, it is not the rule, and it hasn't been the rule for a very, very long time. People are now having to live under these policies, and they're waking up and they're saying, actually, borders are good. Borders are not racist. The nation is good. Like go look up the old definition of what a nation is: somebody with a common ancestry and a common language. That's why you should, the idea that you press one for, like we've been pressing one for English. You and I have been pressing since I can remember. I can't remember not pressing one, not pressing one for English. People are sick of it. The up and coming generation are sick of it, and then we get this ruling saying, no, you will not reform. You can't. There's just certain things that you can't do. It doesn't matter that you voted for President Trump 3 times. It doesn't matter that you think elections are rigged. We're gonna allow them to be rigged even further by letting you count ballots to infinity. And while I would love for this whole segment, this whole show to be about how awesome it is the Supreme Court banned men from competing in women's sports,
it gets overshadowed.
Let's be honest. This shouldn't have even been an issue. Like, the men in women's sports,
that was
like,
a layup.
Well, duh. Like, obviously, they're not going to allow that because it's retarded.
Yeah,
So,
it was a layup. It was ridiculous that it was even. I'm like, what are we talking about? If somebody, we've talked about this on the show, Paul. Go back to 2009, 2010, somewhere around in there, and just and talk to yourself at that point. Number one, tell yourself to buy Bitcoin. Number two, say, hey, in 15 years, dudes are going to be playing in women's sports because they're going to say that they're women, and they're going to change their name to Leah Thomas, and they're going to swim around with their male anatomy, and they're going to be in women's locker rooms and all that stuff. And guess what? If you speak out against it, you might get canceled. We'd be laughing. 15 years ago, we'd be laughing at each other, and we're like, "What is Bitcoin?" And what
I'd
are
be
you
like,
talking
"What
about?
is canceled? Is that
some
new word for executed?"
Yes,
like,
exactly.
I don't know, what was even that back
And
then?
what would we have called them? Would we have called them transgender? Nope.
Nope.
We would have called them transsexuals. Transsexuals. Which makes me think of the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, just a sweet transvestite.
Yeah. Oh, you go back to when that movie was out. If you would have said, "Hey, Tim Curry's character here is going to be considered normal and ideal.
Going to have parades.
They're going to encourage kids to do this." You'd be like, "Oh no, this is a freak show. We would never allow that." But that just goes to show you the slippery slope is real.
Paul, there's going to be parades where people have fake male anatomy. I'm trying not to get us censored on Apple, but get male anatomy out there, and people are going to act like they're riding it, and you're going to have freaks walking on the White House lawn, and it's dudes with breast implants walking on the White House lawn topless, showing off their fake boobs because they got a mental illness, and one side of the country is going to embrace and celebrate it. And we would just think, you are lying.
Yeah.
Or we might have put a gun in our mouth and just said, I ain't going to live for that. I'm done. Count me out, right? And, of course, we wouldn't have gotten that extreme, but you get what I'm trying to say. And they're called transsexuals. They were freaks of outcasts and all of that stuff because everybody knew what it was.
Yeah.
A mental illness. Stay away from that person, right? It's the video you played about the watch out for the homosexual.
Yes, the old 1950s. Here's Billy, and Billy meets a man at the park.
The homosexual, watch out for that.
Must be weary of the homosexual.
Yes, I'm just a sweet transvestite from trans. Okay, I'm done.
Matt Walsh, I at least got to live for 40 years in a country that looks and functions something like America. The fact that my children are having that opportunity stolen from them fills me with rage so deep I can't describe it. I truly hate the people who have done this to us.
I mean, it's.
And by
Matt
the way,
Walsh is always spot on.
I'm just telling you, the younger male generation, half of millennials, and I would say like well over half, 80% of the Gen Alpha coming up, who are like, I think the oldest Gen Alpha right now is like 14, 15 years old. They are full of just rage against the machine. Like, it's a true American spirit from what I can tell. They're literally like, they are not going to tolerate this anymore.
I'll tell you this. My 15-year-old son out there is more patriotic than I am, and I got flags all over my yard. And constantly, I fly them most of the year when I can. Of course, harsh winter weather, I don't. But sorry, flag people, don't come at me because I know that you're only supposed to fly them at certain times and all of that stuff. But I'm like, screw it, I'm in America. I'm doing it. So, I forgot what I was just going to say. Oh yeah, Matt Walsh. It seems like Matt Walsh is always it seems like he's the person in every room that's looking around being like, are you guys seeing this crap? Are you? What do we do? Like, what are you talking about? What are you cheering for? That's a 9-year-old boy dressed in a girl's outfit walking down the runway, dropping it like it's hot. You've seen that disgusting video. And everybody is cheering for this kid who obviously has a mental illness. And oh, by the way, so does his parents. His parents are the one mentally ill. When someone says that their 3-year-old is a transgender, okay, what do I immediately know about that 3-year-old? Unfortunately, kid, your parents are insane. They're disgusting, idiotic, insane people, and I will say that to anybody's face.
I know you will.
You have a mental illness if you are dressing your 3-year-old boy like a girl because he says he's a girl. Kiss my rear. I am not going to stand up and say, I guess, we just got to be accepting of all people. How's it affecting my life? It is affecting my life because you're degrading society and you are committing child abuse, and you can kiss my... I want to say worse.
But no, here's the leftist mindset. Here is a liberal Christian, fake Christian, David French. He says this to Matt Walsh's tweet there. He says, an absolutely remarkable meltdown is underway on the MAGA right. We've had this policy for generation after generation. It's right in line with the vision of the founders, and our country is the most powerful and prosperous free nation in world history. So this is how people, your average leftist progressive, like this is how they think, that this is no big deal, that this decision has been upheld. But again, it's kind of like if the IRS, like we've got the amendment. What is it? Is it the 13th Amendment that created the income tax? And we debate the income tax we have over the years. Does it need to be really high and with a bunch of loopholes, or does it need to be really low and just But imagine there was this awakening over the last 10 years, and the IRS was taking 99% of everybody's money. Like literally, that was the tax rate. You get to keep 1% of your money, and the government gets 99% of it. We would be challenging the constitutionality of the 13th Amendment, I'm sure.
Oh,
right?
Sure.
And then when they come down and they say, absolutely no, the government has the right to tax you 99% of your money. That's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. Deal with it. We would be outraged by it. That's what's happened with the 14th Amendment. While the interpretation has been flawed for a very, very long time, there has been an awakening of people realizing how we got to this point. Our lives are worse off because of this policy, because of the anchor baby policy. And we don't think it's constitutional, and it isn't. I mean, jurisdiction thereof does not mean just any. It's the foreigners didn't think like this. They had no frame of reference that you would ever be that our nation, a well-armed nation, would ever be overrun with third world barbarians and then be told, like in the book Camp of the Saints, that we just have to. We have to accept our own suicide. We have to accept all this, this fake altruism.
Well, I mean, David French here is, if I remember correctly, he's a columnist for somebody, right? For
New York Times or something. Like
he's
their like resident conservative, but but he's not. He's the resident Christian, And when he doesn't want to ban, like he's famous. He's famous in official right wing Christian circles when we criticize him. But he said, "Hey, putting up with child sex shows or child drag shows or drag shows for children to watch is just a blessing of liberty. Like we have to put up with that so that we have our other liberties over here." He is literally the reason I'm not a libertarian anymore. One of the reasons.
Paul, can I walk outside right now, take all my clothes off, and walk down the street with zero consequence?
With zero confidence.
Well, that too. That was a Freudian slip there.
Zero. What was it? Consequence. No, you would be arrested.
Well, I've been hitting the gym lately, so maybe I would have 5% confidence.
That's fine.
And 0% ability with no consequence.
Yeah. You would be arrested, tackled immediately.
Okay. Because we have decency laws here. And you are a mentally ill man dressed like a slutty woman, standing up there half naked in the public library that is publicly funded in front of children, and you have the gall, David French, to say that I have to put up with that just because this is America and America is about freedom. You're so warped and retarded that your brain actually thinks that that's true. There are things we don't put up with, as in 46-year-old men walking down the street naked, butt naked. You can't do that. We don't have to put up with it. It's indecent. And we are one step worse, in my opinion, because you're doing this in front of children, specifically for children. You're disgusting. You need mental help, and you need a prison cell.
Yeah, I actually think you're right. I think specifically those comments that he made were about drag time story hour. Anyway, it was something along those lines. Where
Same
like,
thing.
Blessings of liberty.
Reading
like,
all
okay.
these things with double entendres and all of this stuff, it just blows my mind, Paul. And I said this in our group text, and I've only got a few more minutes, and I have to bail today. Going to a big World Cup party tonight, so excited about that. It's going to be fun. I'm a little old for this, but my buddy's dragging me, so, Anyway, I said this in our group text. And it was almost like they're trying to say, well, it doesn't matter what the framers were intending because this is what it says. Mm-hmm. Because that's, in my opinion, that's the only way that they could justify that. And I didn't read John Roberts. I didn't read his, majority opinion. I did read Justice Thomas's dissent. But when that paper came out there, and we highlight, I don't know if you pulled it, Paul, but it was the paper highlighting, the writer of the 14th Amendment, and I forget his name, but the person who authored the 14th Amendment wrote, obviously, this doesn't apply to anchor babies or to this, whatever you want to call it, like birthing tourism and all of so obviously this doesn't
jurisdiction thereof.
Yeah, the jurisdiction thereof. He was talking about slave children. And so I say, okay, well, let's just say that wasn't specifically outlined there. What was my example? The Second Amendment.
Yes.
Okay. What does the Second Amendment say? It says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's pretty damn clear, Paul. Mm-hmm. That's pretty clear. I don't know that you could interpret it some other way. Shall not be infringed. It doesn't say shall not be infringed except that we've got to have this license. We got to have a background check. If you're in the city of New York, you can't carry a handgun. All of this. It doesn't give all those exceptions. But they have put these restrictions on there. Some I agree with. I'm fine with a background check. Okay, I'm fine with the fact if you're a violent felon and you were arrested for, armed robbery and you're out on bond, I'm fine with you not being able to have a gun because we've seen what you're going to do with one. You're going to terrorize American citizens. We've got to protect the public. I'm okay with some restrictions on that stuff. Why are we not okay with some restrictions on the 14th Amendment? That might be I'm a constitutional conservative, so that might be, maybe I'm contradicting myself here, but I can understand we also have some restrictions on freedom of speech, do we not?
Yes, we do.
Can I threaten to kill you right now with zero consequences if we were enemies? You could technically say, hey, he threatened to kill me.
Right.
I've got freedom of speech. I didn't touch you. I will kill you, Paul, right? That I can't say that. I can't say that. Because there are restrictions. I can't threaten you with violence. There are restrictions. And for us to sit here and say that there should be zero restrictions on this, how about if you flew in on a plane yesterday, you crapped out a kid, that kid's not automatically a citizen? Can we put that restriction in place? Do we have half a brain to be able to say that is totally different than the children of slaves? Can we say that those two things are different?
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about this is like I hate the fact that this is tied to slavery. The thing that the left says is our unforgivable sin. This country is forever tarnished, and now you can't have a country anyway. It's so crazy that this is an amendment that was trying to right a wrong. Say, okay, the children of slaves, they're going to need to be citizens. so we're going to put this in the 14th Amendment. And then the liberals take this and construe it to mean, oh, by the way, you can't have a country. This right applies to the whole world? Like the whole, you're meaning
come
not
one,
just
come
like
all.
the whole world.
Yeah.
It applies to the whole world.
A la
and it's
Sally
all,
Field.
And it all goes back to the Civil War and slavery. And I'm just like, that's just another just terrible taste.
Man, I'm
this
just
whole thing.
I'm just telling you, it just blew my mind because I was like, you're the only way that yours can say this is for you're just looking at what is actually said in the 14th Amendment, not what was intended. Okay, that's what you're looking at. Then why do I need you to review it in the first place? Mm-hmm. If there's no interpretation here, why do I need you to review this in the first place?
Yeah.
Okay, because you have to look at what was intended there and what was the purpose of it, and it is being bastardized. It is being completely manipulated, and it is allowing for about 300,000 people to be born in the United States via dropping them off here right before they're birthing, or someone illegally crossing the border, popping out a kid. Now that kid's a United States citizen, gets welfare, gets food stamps, get Medicaid, all of this stuff, whatever, no restrictions, they're a citizen. So we can't do anything about it. How about you use your brain and realize that there needs to be some restrictions?
Yeah, I completely agree. Rob Spencer, I appreciate it, sir. Thanks for being a part of the show
Great
today.
to be with you as always. I will be back tomorrow.
Okay.
Jack just texted me. We are not going to Tuscaloosa.
All right, cool. So
I'll be
we
here.
will see you as we get ready for the 250th celebration that's going to kick off on Saturday. I'm told that LFA TV will be broadcasting on Friday, so I will be here on Friday for sure. And I don't know what we're going to talk about, but it'll be great. And we'll try to overcome the black pill of this terrible Supreme Court decision and everything that it represents on Friday. But for now, when we come back, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my opinion. Where do we go from here? What does this mean? I'm going to go over a bunch of different takes that are out there. This is the Paul Harrell Program. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back here in just a moment.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red 5.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust to your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
Now for the lowest price ever. Kings, $19.98. Queens, only $18.98. And Giza Dream Bed Sheets, the best sheets in history, for as low as $29.98. Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you, what a concept, now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But that's not all. Order right now and we'll ship your order absolutely free.
This is our family dog, Bubba. He is a Shorty Jack Russell, and he brings a lot of love and laughter into our home. We just want to thank Pet Club for making healthy food and treats for our animals. Bubba has been on Pet Club food for a little over a year now. He really likes the Sequoia dry food, and then I put a scoop of the Sequoia wet dog food in there with some hot water and stir it up, and he absolutely loves it. And he likes the mush puppies, but his ultimate favorite is the antlers. Those keep him busy for a really long time, and he really likes them. It makes us feel really good that the food and treats that we give him have healthy ingredients in them because we want him to be around for a really long time. Our previous dog was a lab, and his name was Titus, and we fed him in bulk, and we would just get his food from the big box grocery stores. And unfortunately, that food wasn't very healthy for him, and he ended up getting cancer and passing away. So we didn't want to make that mistake with Bubba. So we were really fortunate to find Pet Club and find some really healthy food for him to eat. So we would just like to thank Pet Club and We just really appreciate the healthy food that they make so we can keep this guy around as long as we can.
I had 5 units that I purchased for the practice right out of the chute. Well, those went the first week that I got back to Houston. So then we ordered another 5 and then another 5. And I think over the next, 6 to 8 weeks, we had ordered like 35 units. And they're gone. They're still gone out of the practice. So we're excited about moving more of these units for our patients because they need them. And so when you bring in new technology and your staff's thinking, oh, this is another thing that I need to handle during the day, I think it's a good idea to give them a little incentive. And I do it as a team. So if one person does well, the whole team does well. So they all support each other. And they got really excited about that. They love it. They'll bring a unit in, turn it on, put it on the patient's foot or leg, and they'll tell the patients, be sure and talk to Dr. Parker about red light therapy. And the patient will say, red light therapy, yeah, I've heard of that, And so I'll walk in and my nurse is she'll tell me, I've spoken to Mrs. Jones about this red light therapy, and she's really excited about it. So Red Vibe has been fantastic for our bottom line.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red Vibe.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, folks, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. Rob had to step out. Had somewhere he had to be. But I'm here to talk more about this. A few of your comments here in the LFA chat. I know somebody was mentioning Convention of States. Calpurnian61 saying Convention of States. This is obviously talking about an Article 5 Amendment Convention, which is, some people are now looking to try to stave off, these disastrous ideas or whatever. I don't think that's realistic. I understand the process and everything else, and anytime that a Convention of States has ever gotten close to being called, Congress then all of a sudden steps in because they don't want anybody to take away their power, and then they'll try to do it. I just don't think this is. I don't think people have the stomach for it. I don't think people have stomach for the process. I don't think people have stomach for the corruption that would inevitably have to be battled to get to that point. I do know there's some people out there that are, they think there would be a runaway convention or something like that. I just think at this point, people are so disgusted with the idea that the system right now can be fixed when there is, just think about it. No accountability for anything. We know the left are stealing elections, no accountability. Tulsi Gabbard went down there and she saw the machines in Georgia. Okay, we still haven't heard anything yet. This voter report, this election integrity report has been ready since for a year now. And maybe Bill Pulte will declassify it. I don't know, but she's referred people to the Department of Justice for prosecution. Nothing. Okay? Intelligence oligarchy running roughshod against the entire American people, all of us. They get investigated. They get hauled before Congress. The evidence of their crimes is legion, and then nothing happens to these people. So the idea that we say, okay, we need another process or a constitutional amendment, don't get me wrong. If that was a legitimate, if I thought that would work, and if it did happen, I would support, anything, we'd try anything. But do I actually think that would work at this point when you just look at the fact, people are saying, well, now Congress can pass a law that says that you can't have birthright citizenship. Okay, great. They can't even pass the Save America Act when it's attached to their precious FISA 702. They won't even pass that. And I hate to just blame it all on the previous, the previous generation. But we did have this conversation with Eric last week about how, in a lot of ways, Gen X have been completely skipped over in government because because of boomer supremacism or boomer supremacy, which is this term. And I get it. I know it's not everybody and everything else. Like there's boomers in my life that I care a great deal for. But I think this Supreme Court decision, right as the country is shifting on immigration, thanks to people like the late great Lou Dobbs, who made it the headline, the head story of his show for 10 years about what was going on the southern border. Thanks to people like President Donald Trump, who made it his #1 campaign issue, all 3 times he ran, bringing this to the forefront of actually people don't like their country not belonging to themselves. They don't like immigration from parts of the world that don't have any value system that is the same as ours. And, the fact that all first world countries have been overrun by third world barbarians, with the exception of Poland, is not a coincidence. It is all done by economic design. But let me finish reading this, because I apologize. I got off on a tangent here. Let's see. We have 21 states. We only need 12 more for a convention of the states where we can fix Washington without Washington involved, starting with term limits and elections. Here's the issue with this, Bucklebrush, and I appreciate you, Bucklebrush Jones. You've reached out to me on X, and I appreciate you watching our shows while we were on break, and I really appreciate you watching. Who picks the delegates to go to these conventions of the states? Is it going to be the same South Carolina machine that got behind Lindsey Graham? Here in my home state of Arkansas, we have a machine. What types of delegates are going to get sent? They're going to be delegates, as far as I'm concerned, with very rare exception, that are just like the people we send to D.C. now. This is the problem. This is why I don't actually think it'll happen, or it'll fix a problem. I think the process, you want to know the reason why we did all the redistricting we did, and I know the southern states are going to do even more now that we did get that opinion from the Supreme Court saying that you can't gerrymander districts by race. Why are the southern states all of a sudden taking away Memphis's seat or taking away these other seats? They're doing it because this is like a last gasp effort to stay within the process that's on the paper, because you have people that just simply refuse to live in harmony with these. They don't want to live under these ideas. They want to be left alone, and they're going to use every ounce of the political power they have to keep this thing from turning from a cold civil war to a hot civil war. And I don't personally think there's enough time left to try to now do a convention of the states, and I don't really trust it at this point for the whole thing to not be co-opted and corrupted. You want to know who we have to thank, really, for Amy Coney Barrett? Mitch McConnell, who is either on his deathbed, according to reports, or may have already passed away. And again, that is just rumor and speculation, but the guy hasn't been seen for like 20-something days. Anyway, he said, Convention of States, if we can add to the Constitution, they can also remove amendments that protect us. People that call for this are... Oh, okay, Calpurnia. Okay, no, so you're responding to Bucklebrush Jones. Okay, well, you're saying it's a dangerous move. I tend to think it's probably a dangerous move. I would agree with that, just because of what I just said. The type of people that come from that are going to be from the machines of the individual states. But again, I think just generally at this point, I don't think people have the patience for it. I really don't. Let's see here. Somebody says, hey, Paul, are you really 42 years old, Log 23? I thought you were 72 years old. Yeah, I appreciate that. Bucklebrush says, Paul had the head of Convention of States on. When did I have the head of Convention of States on? It hasn't been. I don't even remember that. That might. I mean, I used to be a big proponent of Convention of States. There's no question. I used to think it was a viable option. I'm just not so sure anymore. And I think generally I would just say I think the process at this point is let's see here. Where are we? What are we doing? All Trump has to do is implement U.S. Code 1182. This is from New York Girl 66, and tell Congress it doesn't get lifted until Save America Act is going. I don't know. So Bucklebrush says it was while I was out. Okay, well, I don't know. I don't remember interviewing the head of the Convention of States at any point in recent memory. But anyway, I want to get to a few more reactions here. Here we go. So Sean Davis writing this, John Roberts just opened the door to a law banning pregnant foreigners and requiring sterilization of all foreign visitors to the U.S. This is how insane. Conservative Treehouse kind of does this. And again, this is not an actual solution, in my opinion. This is just kind of poking the bear, which I guess in theory is fun. But I am going to read this because I did think it was at least interesting to call it the Roberts requirement. But I don't think this is going to happen. And again, it doesn't fix our problem. It's the same thing that happened with the whole, the Mamdani winning, or all of these, these New York Muslims winning or whatever. And people want to come at the problem and say, well, we should ban Sharia law, or people say, we need to ban, foreign-born people from holding office. Yeah, okay, great. I agree with all that. But wouldn't it just be easier to ban all Muslims from coming to America if that's really the problem? Wouldn't it just be easier to have a complete immigration moratorium for, at this point, forever, just, an indefinite suspension? But anyway, he says, Sundance says, as a pragmatic and patriotic American, I respectfully suggest and recommend the U.S. State Department immediately institute the Roberts requirement following similar visa entry protocols previously used for COVID. The Roberts requirement: each female visa applicant must present a valid negative pregnancy test taken no longer than 10 days prior to travel to the United States. And again, he says this is just not to get stuck on the details. He says, start thinking like a person who realizes the goal is to create severe antagonism through regulation. The antagonism can be directed. Aim isolation, ridicule, and marginalization at those who created the problem. This can be done without visible vitriol. And again, I get it. And people are going to lie or create fake documents or whatever. But yeah, okay, that's one thing you could do. Sure. I mean, this is something we can do, but does it really solve the problem? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And again, this decision comes down as the country over the last 10 years specifically, especially the last 10 years, have realized that the whole problem, I mean, we're literally living the results of our rulers' decisions that are based on hatred for their own people, not actual love. I mean, they say they love us, but they don't actually. They actually hate us by their actions. And this is the Supreme Court hating the American people because you're saying that the Constitution requires us to suicide ourselves. The Supreme Court is telling the country that we are required by our own documents that our founders in the 18th century, because this is what the left is saying. Oh, this was in the vision of the founders, even though I know the 14th Amendment came much later. That this is what they thought. This is what they assumed was a great idea. We're going to put in here a law that requires us to just let everybody get your birthright. Your birthright, my birthright, just belongs to the whole world so long as they get here and have a baby. It's absolutely insane. So Brianna Morello says, she kind of says how ridiculous it is. Some people out here saying, well, we'll just pass a constitutional amendment. Yeah, that's not going to happen. She says you'd need 290 votes in the House, 67 votes in the Senate, then ratification by 38 out of the 50 states. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. And this is the point. The House voted 198 to 224 against attaching the Save America Act to the NDAA, which has your FISA and all that other stuff, the black bagging of Americans, all that other stuff. So you hear this, we can just amend the Constitution. No, that's not the solution here. That's not the solution. I mean, ideally, yeah, Congress could do this. You could kick it, Congress could, but they're not going to. The donors don't want it. The same reason why the donor class hasn't allowed the Republicans to pass a law, a standalone bill out of the House and the Senate. We ban gender mutilation of our children. Genital mutilation. We're going to ban this practice. They won't do it. The donors don't want them to do it. The donors don't want them to do it. Jeff Younger here on this show talking about this, that a lot of people don't even know that Miriam Adelson has funded in the past. Drag Time Story Hour. Here's Governor Ron DeSantis. This was his reaction. We're going to get to some more reactions here in just a minute.
Temporary authority for Florida to suspend certain restrictions while allowing the legislature to review long-term policy decisions. Additionally, this legislation prohibits pre-planned adoption agreements and surrogacy contracts involving citizens or residents of foreign countries of concern. China ships people here for birth. They do it's really a seedy thing, and I'm glad that we were able to do that. I know we're hoping that the Supreme Court is going to interpret the 14th Amendment so that we can put a stop to some of the people that are coming here for a month, having birth, and then going back to China. That's part of an operation. Why would we let that happen and grant citizenship under those circumstances? Bill also creates enhanced criminal penalties for crimes committed to benefit foreign governments or foreign-owned terrorist organizations. As I mentioned, charitable organizations. It prohibits those organizations.
So he's talking about Florida legislation, and this was obviously a few weeks ago. But he's right, exposing the Chinese op that's been going on. But obviously, it's not just China. This is a whole systematic destruction of the country. We're being told that we don't have a country, and it's really difficult. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I know on Friday we're going to be on the air. We're going to do our best to celebrate the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I'm a huge fan of that document. Obviously, it's like right there behind me. The theology of the document that totally gets glossed over today. But it's difficult. I mean, it's been a rough 100 years. I mean, this country really had it right for the first 100 years, and now we're being told that we're an economic zone. That's fundamentally what this means. The United States is an economic zone, not a country. An economic zone, not a country. So Jake Beckett, fellow Arkansan, played for the Arkansas Razorbacks and the New England Patriots. He says, important day to observe the true purpose of the Republican Party to channel your rage from bad Democratic outcomes into more dead-end Democratic solutions. So this is a response to Bill Melgen, saying GOP Senators Katie Britt and Rick Scott both out with immediate calls for Congress to take action to end birthright citizenship. Expect that momentum to grow with Republicans. Yeah, we would love that. We would love that if it actually happened, but it's really just going to be a really good... We don't know what'll happen. I mean, we can guess nothing. But we do know for certain what'll happen. It's going to be a great fundraising tool for the GOP between now and November. Great fundraising tool between now and November. Clarence Thomas, I'm going to get through these. And now we got this to try to, calm us down. U.S. Department of Justice, birth tourism schemes exploit our immigration laws and often violate our criminal laws. The Department of Justice will prioritize the prosecutions of birth tourism schemes across the country. Actors seeking to exploit loopholes to obtain automatic citizenship for their children pose a national security threat and will be brought to justice. If there was ever a time now to actually ramp up the deportations, to get mass deportations, now is the time to do it. But then we got this mixed messaging. We did get a Supreme Court decision saying, hey, the Haitians can go. President Trump can just deport the Haitians. And then we got this statement from Mark Wayne Mullen, at least on a newscast somewhere. This happened while I was on vacation, saying, well, they can apply for visas and everything. And it's like, what are we even doing here? Why? What is the messaging here? And then, of course, Mark Wayne Mullen came out and he said, let me see if I can't find this. I'm sorry, I'm going out of order here. Anyway, he came out and said that the mass deportations, or the Haitians will be deported. He said something like that. Orrin McIntyre, mass deportations, no more excuses, no more PR battles, no more foreign adventures, no more honoring court injunctions, deportations so fast that the libs run out of tears. It'd be great. A lot of things got to happen, though. You got to have the stomach for more Renee Goods or Alex Preddies, because we haven't gone after the funding networks of the left. We haven't arrested those people that are actually, the ones dropping off the pallets of bricks or running the Telegram or Discord chats, trying to, mobilize and make these people think that they're fighting fascism. Kind of hard to run mass deportations when you're not going after the counterinsurgency that's being funded, well, let's be honest, by the intel oligarchs that don't want any of this stuff to actually happen. I mean, think about this for a second. I have said this since January of 2025, that this was going to be a very interesting experiment over the next 4 years when it comes to accountability, and the fact that, especially if you are if you're a Christian in this country and you know what the left really wants to do to you, the idea of them getting back in power without mass accountability for traitors, all of the treasonous acts of the weaponization of the intel oligarchy against us, it's just going to be on steroids. And at the end of all of this, when none of that has happened, if none of that has happened, we are essentially slaves. And I know there's a lot of people that are they've already at that conclusion. They're already there. But the Supreme Court just said that lib states can just count ballots until they're done, whenever you get the desired outcome. After what we just witnessed in Los Angeles and California, you just do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Yeah, slavery is actually the question. Matt Walsh, though, bringing gender into it, he says it turns out that Amy Coney Barrett is a DEI hire. Little better than Ketanji Jackson. Terrible pick. When's the last time we had a Republican president who didn't put a liberal justice on the court? Evangelical Dark Web responds, Coolidge, Calvin Coolidge. That's probably true, because Calvin Coolidge, by at least my limited knowledge, admittedly limited knowledge of who he was as a president, understood the game. He understood that lobbyists were essentially the scum of the earth, and he was being pressured constantly. He talked about this, being pressured constantly to do the complete opposite of what he campaigned on doing. He definitely knew this. I would imagine that that's probably true. Calvin Coolidge probably had some decent Supreme Court justice picks, but I don't know. But in keeping with the female aspect of all of this, Sotomayor, Ketanji, Elena Kagan, Amy Coney Barrett, the women of the Supreme Court that look at all of us, again, it's literally the cherry on top of our boomer-driven government is, you can't have a country anymore. You can't have a country anymore. Here is Andrew T. Walker. He says this: disagree with Justice Barrett's jurisprudence all you want. That's your prerogative. But discrediting her reasoning by appeal to her sex or her status as an adoptive mother, I think she adopted some Haitians, as some on the populist right now do, is a category error, he says. It's also textbook bulverism, C.S. Lewis's name for the trick of explaining why someone is wrong without first showing that they are wrong. You only think that because you're a woman. He says a legal argument is sound or unsound on its own terms. The sex of the one making it has no bearing on whether it tracks with the truth. Okay, so he goes on with this long diatribe. But Megan Basham, who is a woman, author of a really good book called Shepherds for Sale, if you've never read it, you need to, about how Marxism has carved itself out, or how people have carved a safe place for Marxism within the church or parachurch ministries. Megan Basham says, sorry, Andrew, as a woman, I'm going to say it is obvious that every woman who has ever been on the court has been a disaster, so I think it's perfectly reasonable for people to say, don't put any more women on the court. Huh. That's why so many people can't stand her in Christian circles on X. For decades, Sean Davis writes, after the 14th Amendment was ratified, it was understood that American Indians born in America were not American citizens. It took an act of Congress to make them citizens. The Roberts/Barrett take on the 14th is entirely inconsistent with actual history, language, and common sense. They're not actually stupid enough to believe it, which means this entire decision was driven by their own cowardice and craven desire to be liked. What an embarrassment those two are. Well, that's one reason. That's one. The whole Indian, Native American aspect of this is really interesting. Friend of the program, somebody who spoke at the United Nations about the dangers of dental amalgam and the fact that we still, as Americans, are putting mercury into our heads of kids, into the heads of children and our soldiers, and how that's ridiculous because we're literally poisoning them. She has actually spoken to this program that we're still using it. Europe and other first world countries are banning mercury in dentistry. We're not banning mercury in dentistry, except, according to her last appearance on the show, Native American reservations, no mercury. Interesting, huh? Interesting. Here's Chris Ann Hall. I've met Chris Ann Hall a couple of times. She's I think she has her own show. She's talks about the Constitution a lot, right? And while right now I'm less and less enamored with, as I just mentioned earlier, being able to fix this problem with the Constitution itself, because the Constitution hasn't mattered in 100 years in this country. But she does have a really good take on why this is a terrible decision. She says the first error is that they rely on the 14th Amendment to justify birthright citizenship while ignoring the limits the 14th Amendment places upon its own authority. Section 5 of the 14th Amendment reads, "The Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article." Congress has never enacted legislation granting birthright citizenship to the children of temporary visitors or those unlawfully present in the United States. SCOTUS has the authority to review executive orders and determine whether they are constitutional. That's where the authority ends. So this is quite literally, you've heard the phrase for years, legislating from the bench. That's exactly what they did here. Maybe more so than other decisions where that phrase has been used. SCOTUS does not have the authority to write legislation Congress never enacted. If birthright citizenship extends to the children of temporary visitors or those unlawfully present, the Constitution assigns that decision to Congress, not the courts. By creating, through judicial opinion, what the Constitution assigns to the legislative branch, the majority has violated the separation of powers and exceeded its constitutional authority. That is not constitutional interpretation. That is judicial legislation. And she talks about how she's going to come back later for error number 2, which I have not read. But and this is my favorite tweet that sums up this entire nonsense. And again, from Sean Davis, he says, under this logic of John Roberts, if you were able to smuggle a pregnant woman in labor into the Chief Justice's chambers, that newborn baby would become Chief Justice. If this sounds retarded, it's because it is retarded, and yet we're being told that we're not allowed to have a country. Civilizational death spiral. So and again, I don't mean to black pill. I don't know what's going to happen. I do know, so this is I've got to go back to theological truths, okay? God is in control. We know this. And that is 100% true at all times. We don't know what is going to happen, but we can at least assume that I think this decision puts us on a trajectory of conflict and strife, and we'll see. I mean, I was doing the math, 50 years, it'll be the 300, I'll be 92 years old if I make it to 92 to see the 300th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I was just sitting here driving to work today, was thinking, will I be alive, or will we even have the current country that we have now with its current boundaries, borders, that sort of thing? And I don't know. I don't know what is in store for the people of this country over the next 50 years to get to 300. I don't know if we'll make it. in our official form right now. I will say this, just from a historical standpoint, even with the rise of AI that's arguably going to attempt to officially enslave us, the people of any nation can only be taken so far, can only be abused and put down for so long. And you see that in Belfast. I don't even know what the current situation in Belfast is, but again, it's that calculation that every father makes, this running equation in his head that every father has. Do I overlook injustice? Because if I were to do something about it, I could abandon my family. I overlook this injustice because if I were to do something about it in an unorganized way, I go to jail or get killed myself and abandon my family. But when that equation flips and all of a sudden doing nothing, the father, the dad, the man, or whatever is now convinced that doing nothing actually will condemn your family to a much worse future than one where you would be put in prison, that's when the tipping point happens. And that's why this is a historically significant opinion, I believe. I believe it will be that. To determine exactly what kind of country we're going to have when this is all said and done. I didn't even get to this one. Is this Stephen Miller? Listen to this.
You have to now think very carefully about who you let into your country, even on a temporary basis, because the possibility, as you said, for birth tourism, right? The idea that people come here just to have babies on American soil, and that baby gets to be a citizen for life. So you have mothers that come in fully pregnant, have a baby, go home, and again, that baby gets Medicaid, and that baby gets welfare, and that baby gets cash assistance, and can send, leave the baby with, a cousin, a relative, whatever, and then just send welfare checks back home. You can support a whole family in the third world. So yes, you can't have the kinds of immigration programs other countries have when you can just have a baby here, and now that child is an American citizen. So there's a lot of things we're going to have to take a hard look at, Jesse. Yeah, you have to.
All right, so I'm trying to present all of these different opinions, and I know the last half hour has been pretty black pill on my part. Here is Theo Wald on Newsmax. He is literally saying that there is a white pill in the Supreme Court decision. You let me know what you guys think.
I will say there is a white pill here, which is, look, when I first drafted this executive order back in 45, I was laughed out of many rooms, even in the White House. Senior legal officials said you wouldn't get a single vote at the Supreme Court to support your reading of the 14th Amendment, Theo. There are three, arguably how you categorize Kavanaugh. There are 4 votes for the right reading of the 14th Amendment. The other white pill here is now more Americans than ever, not just eggheads like me, more Americans than ever know how serious this problem is, that we have millions of refugees, false asylum claimants, illegal aliens, birth tourists coming into this country and depriving the nation of the rights that actually belong to U.S. citizens. So that's the white pill. And look, it's a massive disappointment, a massive defeat. But going forward, the fight to preserve American citizenship.
So he's saying it's a white pill that more people know what the problem is. And you'd say, okay, in a normal society, you say, okay, great, yeah, that is true. We'll get them the next time at the ballot box. But elections can be rigged. Elections can be stolen. We're all firsthand witnesses of this. We all saw it happen in 2020, and we've seen it happen, I think, since. And looking back, it's probably been happening for much longer than that. So it kind of goes back to the whole Great Britain thing. You look at what's going on in Ireland and in the UK and everything else, and you say, well, they don't like the policies of being overrun by third world barbarian Muslims, so then they'll try to organize politically against it. But then when you do that and you make a post on social media, you get arrested. So it's kind of the same situation where, and this is why you talk about getting the word out. Oh, yeah, the word out that illegal immigration's bad and that anchor babies are bad. Okay. Well, what about getting the word out that, especially in the rise of AI, like trusting AI, trusting computers to pick our leaders is the definition of insanity? And yet we still have people that challenge that assertion, and they think that we need to keep using machines to pick our leaders. Taking the mail-in ballot fraud out of the picture entirely, just the computers themselves, they still are on board with this. Sean Davis again. Everyone telling you that the Civil War was fought so illegals and Chinese spies could drop off anchor babies in America hates you and wants to steal your country from you. They are civilizational squatters, and you owe them nothing but disdain. Back to Jake Beckett, again, fellow Arkansan here, saying the Civil War was actually fought for similar reasons. There's a direct line from the Civil War to today's SCOTUS ruling if you are paying attention. Speaking of Europe, headline, Spain's mass illegal migrant amnesty draws 1.3 million applications as Vox warns of demographic and electoral transformation. Again, just a coincidence that all these first world countries, it's not a coincidence, are experiencing the same problems that we are experiencing here, all centered around the idea that you're not allowed to have a country. Here was Tim Pool's response after the ballot decision from the Supreme Court, predicting what Barrett would do with the birthright citizenship question. He wrote, tomorrow Barrett will publish her argument that a Chinese Communist Party member who flies to Guam so he and his wife can deliver their baby, who then take their child to be raised in China, will be eligible to be president of the United States 35 years later. The national security implications of this are profound. Something must be done about it. An executive order declaring a national emergency, but only if you're willing to actually use the executive authority. What did Andrew Jackson say? The Supreme Court made their decision. Let's see them enforce it. And then another quote from Tim. What does it even effing mean if you can cast a vote before Election Day that can be counted after Election Day and results can be certified whenever they feel like it? Again, the issue here is slavery. In my opinion, that's actually what we're talking about here. To be a slave or not to be a slave. He says elections in America are dead after the Supreme Court rules there is no deadline for ballots to be received. Washington Post, Supreme Court rules mail-in ballots arriving after Election Day can be counted. Not a serious country indeed. Elon Musk posts agreeing with Supreme Court Justice Sam Alito opposing the ruling upholding late mail-in ballot counting. Quote, today's decision leaves open opportunities for voter fraud. You think? That's exactly right. Every blue state now has the right to count ballots until they get the election result they want. And now this is enshrined in law from the Supreme Court. It's actually insane. And again, if it wasn't for these, we would still be talking about it if it was reversed. It'd be the most critical decision on the eve of our 250th anniversary. It'd be amazing if they had come down the other way. It would be a path forward to actually save the country, a clear path forward, no more anchor babies. The demographic replacement, the white replacement would cease, or at least you could see a path forward to it ceasing. But no, the dreams of the left and leftist publications and journalists, where Bill Clinton said that by 2030, Americans will be a minority white country, and everybody applauded like that was some sort of good thing. And it's only in the last 10, 15 years that people have realized, wait a second, why is there so much anti-white, anti-Christian bias? Why is it so acceptable? People are waking up to that, along with the orchestrated invasion from the third world that's been allowed to happen via proxy war against the American people via the Mexican cartels and human traffickers, that our own leaders have partnered with these people. We would be talking about this in a more a positive light, because it is a good thing that the Supreme Court said that, hey, states can keep men out of women's sports. It's a good thing, right? Duh. something to celebrate. Something to celebrate, 100%. But what kind of United States do we have? How are we united with the states that are going to let men continue to compete in women's sports? Men with a mental illness pretending to be women are going to still be allowed to compete in these other states. And we're united with them? How exactly? How exactly? We used to be United States and we'd have different until the federal government got in with their strings attached. We used to, in Mississippi, you can drink at age 16. In Tennessee, you can drink at age 18 or whatever, I mean, we had a different patchwork of laws, but not different patchworks of laws where one state says that, hey, abortion is murder, and most of the states don't even say that, by the way. And then another state that says, oh, actually, you can kill babies up to 9 months in the womb. What are we united on? What exactly are we united on? 250 years in with these kind of laws and what is beginning to form in this country. The type of union that we actually have. For once, I would love it if the President of the United States got up in the State of the Union address and said, the state of our union is weak. And let me tell you why the state of our union is weak. And just lay it out. Lay out the vast differences that we have, not with like tax policy, but with like the fundamental aspect of what makes a society strong. Like, some of us believe the family is the bedrock. Other people think that a family can be anything that you want it to be. To just be real with it is what I would like. Kind of run out of time here. We did have this. This was a weird situation. You had these people out here that climbed the Empire State Building.
This during the commercial break.
It's kind of crazy.
So this is what it looks like. Two people are at the top on the spire part of the Empire State Building.
I haven't really followed this story at all.
Holding a flag that we think says, because it's blowing in the wind, power of love beats love of power. The world knows peace. Well, that beautiful statement, however it may happen, is way up in the sky. And the two people are...
So somebody said that they need to be very careful because that's an actual like broadcast, like it may not be the best, the most healthy place to be considering the radio signals that come out of those things. I don't know exactly what kind that is, but I mean, there's a reason why, like I know this from back when I was in radio, there's a reason why you have to power down those antennas completely before you send somebody up to climb. Those professional guys that get paid a buku of money for climbing these towers. There's a reason why you power them down, because they will fry you. Obviously, that one must not be very powerful. Food for thought, something to think about. That's all the time that I have for this edition of the Paul Harrell program. I'm going to be back here tomorrow. Rob will be here. Maybe we can get Eric in here. I'm not sure what his schedule is. Everybody's really busy right now gearing up towards the 4th of July. We all have time with our family coming up. Fireworks. We'll see what happens. I got a buddy of mine that was his friends wanted to play a prank on him, believe it or not. They fired one of those giant firework mortars. They were going to fire it over his house to scare him in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. Instead, they actually accidentally fired it through his window and set his couch on fire. And this guy's former military. It's been in some pretty tough situations. You can imagine how he reacted to that. His quote, friends are lucky to be alive. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, Pet Club 24/7, Sherrod Chiropractic. A reminder, when you use these fireworks, be safe out there. That's all the time that we have. We'll see you tomorrow.